النهارده عندنا بركتين بقى. ابونا شنوتي جاي يباركنا في 5 دقايق من وقته عشان عنده الخدمه، وكرولوس صليب، احنا بنقول له دايما كيرو صليب، يعني نختصر نقول كيرو صليب. خادم وشماس جميل، وهو يقول لكم بقيه الليسته بقى الجميله بتاعته، التايتل بتاعته والبروفيشناليتي بتاعته الجميله دي. احب نكون مركزين مع بعض في الهدف اللي احنا مجمعين عشانه. الجمعه اللي فاتت اتكلمنا ساهر يوسف على ازاي التين ايدج هاو لوكس لايك nowadays، وبعت لكم الملخص بتاع المحاضره، وبعت لكم البرزنتيشن بتاع المحاضره. If someone did not receive the brief of the lecture and the presentation, I can send it privately to you, both of you. Okay? Just ask me after the meeting and I will send to you. Actually كلام كان valuable جدا وخبرات مهمة من وضعه كديبيتي في مدرسة هاي سكول بقاله سنين طويلة، يتعامل مع التين-ايجرز. وبعدين لاحظت في كلامه انه بيتعامل مع الاولاد والبنات، هو في مدرسه بنات غالبا، يتعامل معهم individually. انا كنت فاكر ان المدرس او المسؤول او المدير يعني ايه يتعامل مع المدرسه ويرن الدي اوبريشن، لا ده هو 1 to 1، يقول لك فلانه قالت وفلانه عملت وفلانه بعد كام شهر انا لاحظتها وفلانه اديتها تشجيع فعملت. فبيتعاملوا باسم الصليب مع الاطفال والمراهقين دول 1 to 1، لان الفتره دي فتره تحديات. هناخد بقى قبل ما نقدم كرولوس، النهارده كرولوس هيقول لنا على الباوندريز وايه تاني والبرايفسي، ازاي احنا نفهمها ونابلاي، دي مهمه جدا واشرحها لنا من A to Z. ابونا شنوتي كأب كاهن وبياخد اعترافات ناس كتيره في الهاي سكول، اعدادي وثانوي وبريتينز وكله، نقول له يا ابونا في دقائق كده رأي قدسك على المعاناة والتحديات اللي بيواجهوها وهم يظهروها في الاعتراف. بيشتكوا من ايه موستلي، ونفسهم يكون الكنيسة فيها ايه، والبيرنتس شكلهم ايه، والحاجات دي كلها. ناخد فكرة كده من محبة قدسك.
بسم الله والابن والروح آمين. And I have to start by saying, Lena Abagad, I feel sorry for this generation, the teenage generation. I have to start by saying that. I feel sorry for them. لأنهم under so much pressure. أنا أتكلم إنجليزي ولا عربي ولا إيه؟ Both? Okay. لأنهم under so English أحسن? Okay. They're under so much pressure, and we as parents don't understand, because when we brought up, we didn't have this pressure. We didn't have anything. We didn't have any social media. We didn't have the internet. So everything was so closed, okay? Only if they can go to a library and get a book, that would be the limit of it. But nowadays, everything is different. Everything is open. Everything is accessible. So I really feel sorry for them, because they're under so much pressure. And all the pressure is coming from this device. And what's in that device. It's not that device itself. It's what that device connects to. And this is a problem. That device connects to the whole world. Whether we like it or not, whether we admit it or not, whether we want to turn a blind eye to it or not, this is the fact. This small device connects us to the whole world, connects our kids to the whole world. And I get really, really upset when I see parents of young children giving them presents, the latest iPhone. Why? You understand what you're giving your parents to? You're giving them access to the whole world with all the problems in it, with all the bad things. We have to be careful, because they cannot control themselves. This is very attractive, and they become addicted to it. They cannot control themselves. So we need to control what they have access to, because they can't do that. They're immature. They're still young. So this is our duty as parents, to control what our kids have access to, because they are suffering, because they come and they want to be good. They don't want to do the wrong thing. But because the temptation is so strong, and because everything is accessible to them, then they need to fight extra hard to resist temptation. And they need to fight extra hard not to fall into sin, because that leads to many, many sins. And they start from a young age looking at bad sides, gaming. By the way, when they play games, it's not like when we used to be young, we play like, racing games, it's just me and the computer playing. No, it's not like that anymore. When they're playing with the whole world. They're playing with different time zones, people connecting from all over the world, and people coming in different identities. Okay, people come, especially when kids are playing, to do wrong things with kids, and they come pretending they are like them. Okay, we have to be very careful. A lot of people use this. Kids stay up late at night because they need to play in certain time zones with the rest of the world. Certain games have been banned in many countries in the world. Many games have been banned. Why? Because they are teaching our kids the wrong thing. They're encouraging violence. They're encouraging for them to look at sexual stuff. It's very serious. It's not a game anymore when you're just doing basic, naive things. No, gaming is very complicated now. And the people behind it know how to attract our kids and how to make them addicted to it. So we have to be very careful. So don't think, oh, my kid is playing a game, it's safe. No. Again, if it was safe, why did countries ban it? And the games keep changing. And the more they play, the more they get credits. And some games, they give them credit at certain times of the day or night. Kids stay up late so they can get these credits, and it just makes them addicted. I know someone who was at university. He was addicted to games, and he actually kept failing and got kicked out of university because he started when he was young, and he couldn't manage it. He couldn't handle it because he was addicted. So small things like that, we cannot ignore, okay? Obviously, the main thing is what's behind that, okay? We need to understand what's happening. We need to set rules. We need to set boundaries, as Kero is going to be talking about. But I'll let you know, from a spiritual point of view, they are struggling. They want to be good. They come to repent. But it's very easy for them to go back because there's no boundaries. There's no limits. We as parents have an obligation and duty in front of God to put this on them. Don't think because you love your child, you give them whatever they want. No, that's not love. That's actually damaging them. If you really love them, you need to put boundaries on them. If you really love them, don't give them everything they need. A young child does not need the latest iPhone. They don't need that. They don't need that. For safety reasons, for security reasons, there's many other ways. You can have a phone without the internet. There's many other ways. It's not out of love. We need to be wise, and we're going to be accountable. Our children are exposed to many bad things beyond what you can imagine. Pornography, they call it the new drug. It's horrible. It's damaging a lot of our youth, a lot of our kids, and they start from a very young age. I don't want us as parents to be naive and say, my kid will never do anything like that. They don't want to do it. But when it pops up in their face, what can they do? It's very hard to control. So we need to control it because they can't control it. They're struggling with things like that. And I think it needs another topic, Abuna, because it's a big topic. We can't talk about it in a few minutes, how to deal with it and how to control it and what's the issues behind it. But my summary is we as parents need to be extra careful. Don't assume things are safe because they're not. Don't think games are safe. They're not. We need to be on top of things. We need to be aware of what our kids are doing. They are good kids. They're trying to be good, but they need our help to put these boundaries on them. Lord be to God forever.
وجود قدسك بركة في وسطينا. كنت أنا قاصد في كل مرة من الثلاثة أب كان يجي يباركنا كده ويقول لنا الإيه من وجهة نظر السبريتشال الوضع شكله إيه. أبونا في وسط الكلام قال كلمة حساسة جدا، قال ولادنا حلوين وعاوزين يتوبوا بس بيرجعوا تاني للخطية لأن إيه things are like accessible and available for them. فهنا ضروري نركز على فكرة كنترولينج الميديا على قدر الامكان، حتى لو زعلوا حتى لو غضبوا باي تايم هيفهموا حرصكم عليهم شكله ايه. الله يبارك. اقدم تاني كيرو صليب كتر خيره على التزامه جه من بدري. وكيرو بقى من فضلك قبل ما تدينا الموضوع بتاعك انت تعرفنا على خدمتك في اكسدوس عشان دي بتدينا فكره على خبراتك وكده والتايتلز بتاعتك انت اديت. كتر خيرك. ثانك يو.
Thank you, Abuna. Thanks for having me, everyone. My name's Kero. Very briefly, I'm a therapist by trade. That's okay, thank you. My background, I worked in child protection with the government for 13, 14 years. Saw a lot of not nice stuff to young children, unfortunately. I think the topic that Abuna was mentioning, it's and it's a whole topic on its own, I think, that requires a bit of time and digging a bit deeper into this whole new world of cyber safety that all our kids are exposed to from kindergarten up. And then, so that was my job for a long time. I'm a therapist by trade. I went over to Exodus a few years ago. For Exodus, we're a Christian organization. We deal with a lot of different things. We work with a lot of children, a lot of adolescents, a lot of teenagers, a lot of families with different sorts of needs and different issues. Faith-based, we provide a lot of Christian counselling services, social welfare services, and then we have a lot of community programs. We have youth program, we have women's service, we have men's, we have domestic violence, we have all sorts of different seniors for the elderly, mums and bubs, all sorts of different community engagement programs. So thank God, it's a blessing to be at Exodus. It's a beautiful opportunity to serve through our work. We're very blessed at Exodus. So I was asked today to talk about privacy and boundary setting for teenagers. So this talk is in the context of the kids being a bit older in age. So we're not talking little kids in primary school. We're talking more teenagers, more adolescents. Okay, and if you have teenagers or adolescents, this talk, hopefully we can discuss some things. If you have young kids, the basis of this talk is, for you guys with young kids, it's good to know this stuff because a lot of groundwork needs to be laid. A lot of foundations need to be laid that make this stuff a lot easier when they grow up. It's a lot harder to do some of this stuff when they're older in age if certain things haven't been laid. Not hopeless and never too late, never, ever, ever too late. But it's good to know some of this stuff when they're younger and we can work on this stuff as we raise them. I have a disclaimer for this topic. Yes. ممكن عربي. العربي بتاعي is a disaster, but I'll try. My disclaimer: these topics, for all of us, we have kids. Our kids are our prized possessions, and it's very difficult for all of us. I'm a therapist. I teach this stuff at college. I give talks at church. I teach this stuff for a living. And it's very hard for me to do this stuff with my own kids, okay? So we're all in the same boat. I don't want people to hear these kinds of topics and hear these strategies and to be disheartened or to think, I've done this, it's not working, oh, this is exactly what I do and my kids are still whatever and I'm struggling and none of it's working. For khalas, there's no hope, okay? These are just concepts, these are strategies. A lot of this is theory. We do the best we can. This is not magic. This is not foolproof. This is not to say if we do these things and we do them well, the outcome is going to be great and it's going to work and everything's going to be perfect. So if you're doing this stuff or this is not new to you and you're still struggling with your kids, please don't be disheartened. We're all in the same boat, okay? Please, if you have questions, please stop me and ask. If you have experiences that you want to share, a lot of you will have experiences with kids older than myself, so you have real life experiences, you have gone through the struggles, things may have worked, may have not. So please share, please feel free to put up your hand. We have some microphones we can hand around. Share your experiences. It's really good for people to hear different perspectives and different experiences. We learn from each other. So the first thing I wanted to cover is for us as parents, and نحن نفهم to understand the stage that our kids are at. And I'll be very honest, the behaviors you're seeing from your children, teenagers, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, their behaviors you're supposed to be seeing developmentally. For an adolescent, the way their brain is forming and the way they're growing and the way they're interpreting the world and everything they see around them, most of what we see is the norm. We're supposed to see it. A lot of it's not great when it's not good. We're Christians. We want our kids to behave in a certain way and to act a certain way and to make certain decisions, of course. And when they don't, it impacts us. But the reality is, as human beings and for their growth and their development and the way their brain is forming, a lot of these problems we see is normal. For their age group, living in a society that they're living in, experiencing the difficulties that they're experiencing, this stuff is normal, okay? Even I say to parents with young kids, when we have young kids and the kids start to lie. They start to say things that are not true. Lying's not good. We're Christian. We don't want our kids to lie. But lying from a psychological perspective and a scientific perspective and a developmental perspective shows that the child is growing and developing. It shows that their cognition, the wiring in their brain is forming, and they're figuring things out. And they're problem solving, not in a correct way, but they're problem solving. I don't want to get in trouble. If I say this, I might not get in trouble and I'll be free, so I'm going to lie and say this. So the process that's happening in their brain developmentally is spot on, like from a humanistic perspective. From an ethical perspective, طبعا, we don't want our kids to lie. But just try and factor this in when you're seeing certain behaviors from your kids. All hope is not lost. They're developing, they're growing, and a lot of this stuff is normal. So teenagers, they want autonomy, they want freedom. Every teenager, as they're growing, they want freedom. They want to make their own decisions. They don't want to be told what to do. They want everyone, all of us growing up, if you remember, we want autonomy. We want our identity. We're growing up, we're different to mum and dad. We're different to my brother and sister. I'm different to my cousins. I'm forming my identity. I'm getting to know who I am. That's normal. Belonging. Teenagers, their primary aim is to belong to a group. And that group is not mum and dad. And that group is not teta and geddo. That group is their friends. This age group, the thing they long for and they want the most is acceptance and belonging with their friends, with their peers. And ideally, you're attached to a good group of peers. 100%. That's what we want. But their primary aim is belonging and acceptance. And a lot of the time, they'll do whatever they need to do to feel accepted and to feel like they belong. Okay? Like we said, their brain's developing. So from a medical perspective, there's that prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain that's responsible for making decisions, judgment, thinking about things before they act, controlling their impulses and things like that. Teenagers, it's not developed yet. We have this expectation that we want our kids to make good decisions and to think clearly and to think about the consequences before they act. But that part of their brain hasn't fully developed yet. We have to be realistic with where they're at and the behaviors that they're showing. Okay? Not saying it's okay and that we just accept it because they're growing. No. But this knowledge is useful for us to make sense of the way our kids are behaving. They want grown-up freedom, but they make childlike decisions. For they want the freedom of an adult, but they act like a child. And that's very hard for us as parents to marry the two. They need boundaries, which we'll get to. They need personal space to develop confidence and individuality. For all of these things that when they're adults, good, wholesome, well-rounded adults, they need these things in their teenage years and in their adolescence. And our job is to give them this stuff. We need to give our kids freedom. We need to give them independence. But we need to protect them at the same time, 100%. Our job is to try as best as we can, it's very hard, to find that balance between giving them privacy, giving them freedom, giving them independence and trusting them, but having boundaries, having rules, and making sure that they're safe and that they're growing up godly. Okay, and we find that balance, God willing.
الخدام بيقولوا ان في ناس مش متابعه فنحاول ان انا عارف ان اغلبكم بياخد باله بس ناكد كده. كان كيرو اولا بيقول هو اشتغل فتره طويله في الشايلد بروتكشن ده كان في الدوكس وبعد كده دلوقتي التحق باكزوس ودي هيئه مسيحيه جميله جدا على فكره ان بتتعامل مع الشخصيات الصعبه من اولادنا اللي عندها مشاكل في السوشيالي او مشاكل منتلي او وعندهم جروبات كتيره اطفال مراهقين رجال سيدات فاميلي كبار في السن بيخدموا كل القطاعات دي ربنا يباركهم ونصلي من اجلهم يعني. كان ادانا كده بريف على مرحله المراهقه ان هو ودي كان اداها لنا برضو ساهر المره اللي فاتت، ان هم بيدوروا على شخصيتهم ازاي. ولما احنا بنتوقع هنا كبيرنس بنوفر لهم كل الاتموسفير المسيحي والدراسه والبيت وكل الامور دي كلها، نتوقع ان هم يتصرفوا بطريقه جيده، وده مش بيحصل، مش عمليا. وقال ما تتخضوش ان ده نورمال. وانا اول مره اسمع الكلمه دي، طبعا هي ليها مرجعيه علميه، بيقول ده نورمال، لان هم لما بيجربوا حاجات، وده قالوا ساهر برضو بيجربوا استراتيجيز، ده بالنسبه لهم ايه نورمال، وده بياكد ان عقلهم بينمو. حتى برضو قال حاجه جديده بالنسبه لي، لو كذب ده بيحاول يحل مشكلته. وفكره ان الشخص يحاول يحل مشكله، ده نوع من انواع المهارات اللي المفروض يتعلموها. بيحلها بطريقه خاطئه، ولكن هو بيحاول باي تايم يحل المشكله. ما تتخضوش، لان احنا عندنا الوت اوف ورك نعمله، ولكن الورك دوت او التربيه ليها جزئين. الجزء الاولاني هو البروتكشن، وزي ما قال قدس ابونا شنوتي ان احنا نحميهم ونحط رولز باوندرز، يعني نتكلم عليها بالتفاصيل، ده جزء مهم قوي، من غير غضب، من غير مشاكل، يعني باوثورتي، بالسلطه بتاعك كأب وكأم يعني. والجزء الثاني مهم، نديهم سبيس، نديهم يعبروا عن رأيهم، نديهم ثقة، نشجعهم، كل ده جزئين. انا كأب وأم مسؤول احط قوانين من غير مشاكل، يعني من غير عراق، وفي نفس الوقت ادي السبيس وادي التشجيع وادي الثقة فيهم.
There was no way أنا كنت أقدر أقول ده بالعربي. So, please, I'll try my best. بس معلش, you might have to ترجم every now and then أبونا. The first thing I wanted to talk about, prerequisite, قبل ما نعمل الحاجات دي، قبل ما نحط boundaries، قبل ما نديهم privacy، قبل ما give them consequences and parent them, there's something very important إن إحنا لازم نتأكد ونحاول try to have in place with our children, because it makes everything else أسهل, a lot easier if we have this. And what this is having a positive relationship with our children. As parents, علاقة بيننا وبين عيالنا, if we have a positive relationship with our kids, this stuff is a lot easier. لما أنا أجي consequence the child, I will punish the child, I will put a boundary in place, I will have to have a difficult conversation, عملوا حاجة غلط, and لازم I have to reprimand them. If I have a good relationship with them, that's a lot easier. وهم هيقبلوا مني, they'll accept from me a punishment or a difficult conversation much easier and better if I have a good relationship with them. Okay? And if it's hard to have a good relationship with our kids, which it's very hard to have a good relationship with our kids, at least نحاول have a balance. يعني in a balance when we're frustrated, when we're angry, when they're driving us mad and we're yelling and we've had a long day at work and it's not great, ماشي, that's life, we're all يعني in that position. But then نحاول نbalance it. لما في فرصة, when there's opportunities to have a positive relationship, to talk to them, to take them out, to spend time with them, to have a conversation with them, we need to take those opportunities على الأقل to balance, to try and balance. But our aim is to have a positive relationship with our children. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Again, that's another topic. But in general, this needs to be our focus. And again, it serves us, يعني it's a good investment for us وهم صغيرين, and نحن have a good relationship with them, عشان كل ما بيكبروا, it gets a lot harder. Can I just so I can understand, who in the room has teenagers, يعني 13 up? Okay, with few persons. Well, how many below, yani primary school age? Okay, half. That's awesome. Yeah, perfect. And who has both? Okay. All right. Very, very good. Okay. So how do we do this? Some strategies and how we can try and have a better relationship with our kids. Some things. One is to listen before we speak. Look, I'll be very honest, and malish samhuni, hope no one gets upset from me. One, I'm Masri, I'm Egyptian through and through. I'm from Shobra in Egypt, so I'm just like you. I feel, and my experience, el culture بتاعتنا sometimes doesn't allow us to do this stuff easily. Culturally, the way I was raised, and I'll be honest, the way I'm raising my kids in regards to having a positive relationship, listening to them, understanding what they're trying to say. One of Mokhi, I've already made up my mind, I've made my decision. This stuff, I don't think we're great at culturally. And I think this, we need to put a lot of effort into this. When our kids are talking, to listen to them, to show them enough respect, احترام towards them, to show them respect. And نحن نسمع لهم ونشوف بيقولوا إيه or why وعايزين إيه and the reasons why. Before we just say no, or we say these are the rules, or there's no way, لا يمكن, I said no because that's it, end of discussion, finished. Okay, we should always get better at listening before we speak. Learning about our kids and taking the time to get to know who they are, what they like, what they enjoy, what they're good at, what they're not good at. And the things they're good at, taking time to encourage that and to participate معاهم in the things that they're good at. If a kid's good at drawing and painting, نقعد معاهم, نرسم معاهم, or give them the space to do that. They're good at sports, they're good at music, whatever it is, and نحن نعرف, نفهم, and نشترك معاهم as much as we can. And this takes time, and this takes effort. احنا كمان in this society, we're very busy, we have work, we have businesses, we have khidmah, we have everything, we do everything. But we need to, the priority for us is our kids. So we need to be purposeful and نحن put time into our children to build the positive relationship. Treat them the way we want them to treat us. فاحنا none of us here will accept and our kids يشخطوا فينا. There's no way. Or to disrespect us, or to say things that they shouldn't, or lose control, or their anger to come out in a way that's not acceptable. We wouldn't accept that from them. Yes, in theory and ideally, we shouldn't be doing that to them. Realistically, of course we do. Okay, we're human and we're parents. But idealistically, and we should be striving for trying to achieve, and we treat them the exact same way that we want them to treat us. There's no reason why we should lose our peace. There's no reason why we should yell. There's no reason why we should get angry. There's no reason why نحن كلام مش حلو, or to get frustrated, or whatever it is. Okay, so trying, and I'll get to this in a few slides, but trying to role model to them the way الطريقة اللي احنا عايزينهم هم you deal with us and with others. Okay, creating a safe zone. This is very important, and again, samhuni, culturally, we're not good at this. If we don't create a safe zone for the kids and العيال you feel safe مضمونين معانا and they're comfortable to tell us stuff, they've done something wrong, they're in trouble, something's gone really bad, then they're not going to come to us and they're going to lie and they're not going to be honest, or they're going to go to somebody else. And this responsibility علينا if we don't create a safe space. As هم عارفين, and the only reaction they're going to get from us is زعيق and punishments and إزاي and nakad and all of this stuff from us and frustration and anger, then and that's the environment we've set for them when things go wrong. مش هيقولنا. They're not going to come to us. They're not going to trust us. They don't feel safe. They know we're just going to react like this. So it's our responsibility, we're the parents. احنا responsibility علينا ان احنا provide for them a safe space where they can come to us and say, I've done something wrong, or I'm in trouble, or I've stuffed up big time and I need help. If they don't feel safe, they're not going to come to us. And the risk is هيروحوا الحد and they could get the wrong advice. They could get advice that we wouldn't give or we don't agree with if they don't feel safe with us. And آخر حاجة, pick your battles. Again, all of you in the room have kids. There's a lot of battles. There's a lot of battles. Every day there's a lot of battles. فاحنا, as much as we can, نختار, نpick. Which battles are we going to have? And it's going to be tricky, but we have to. And which battles we can let go. Okay? Because if we choose to have every battle, we're not going to have a positive relationship. Okay? And that's hard, but we need a balance. So just some strategies of how we can try to better our relationship or a better balance in a positive relationship and a negative relationship.
مهم قوي نحافظ على علاقة جيدة بوزيتيف إيجابية مع أولادنا. واعتقد هو اجتهد كرولوس ان هو يضيف العربي، فممكن يكون البراجراف الاخير ده اسهل بالنسبه لكم. الحقيقه لو انت دخلت مع اولادك في صراع ومقارنه واهانه، طب ما هو هيقفل منك، هيقفل منك ومش هيحب يتكلم معاك، هو هيشات داون. انما تحترمه، تسمع له، تسمع آراءه، تديله فرصه حتى لو هيطلع مشاعر قدامك ما يجراش حاجه. وبعدين عاوزه يحترمك، احترمه، او اديله كمان السبيس زون، صح كده؟ سبيس زون، سيف زون، بس مش تديها له وترقد له بقى. يعني الام ايه، تدي بقى ايه المساحه لبنتها تحكي، وهي عماها ايه بتاخد منها بيانات زي الانفستيجيتور وتتفق مع بابا وايه وتضرب. لا لا لا، يعني خصوصياتهم نحتفظ بيها ونحاول نعالج بيها. ده مهم قوي، نحافظ على علاقه ايجابيه ومتزنه مع اولادنا. دول ولادنا وانتوا بتحبوهم، فما نخشش في صراعات. ولو هم عايزين يعملوا صراعات خليك انت طويل البال وحبه واحترمه، عشان هو بالتالي يتعلم الحاجات دي.
وكل ده من الإنجيل. And there's one verse that I think, يعني if we can use this area for our parenting, we'll be very, very good. The verse is from the book of James. So then, my beloved children, let every man be swift to hear, quick to hear, to listen, slow to speak. So we listen first, we understand first, then we speak when we need to speak, and slow to wrath, slow to anger, slow to frustration, slow to judgment, slow to punishment. Okay, the three things: swift to hear, quickly to hear first, slow to speak, and then slow to wrath. If we can, as best as we can, use this verse with our parenting or with our husband or wife, we'll be in a lot better position. Do you know the ayah بالعربي?
جاب لنا ريفرنس من يعقوب الرسول: كن مسرعا للاستماع مبطئا في التكلم مبطئا في الغضب. اسمع واتكلم قليل وما تغضبش. ولادنا ما لهمش ذنب ان انا فرستريتد، ان انا بروكن، ان انا عندي مشاكل مع البارتنر، ان انا في الشغل بيقهروني، ما لهمش ذنب خالص. ربما باي تايم نحب ان هم يحسوا بينا، ولكن ما نحطش عليهم كل السلبيات بتاعت يومي الصعب، ما لهمش ذنب خالص. عشان نحافظ على علاقة إيجابية ومتزنة، نسرع في الاستماع، نبطئ في التكلم، نبطئ في الغضب.
A second strategy, a concept is respond, don't react. فنحن respond to our children when they're misbehaving, not to react to our children when they're misbehaving. And there's a big difference. Reactions, they're what we call knee-jerk reactions. يعني احنا ما عندناش أي control. حاجة حصلت واحنا straight away reacting. No thought, no thinking, no planning, no control, no thinking of the consequences or the impact that it will have. None of that. Just حاجة حصلت أو قالوا حاجة وإحنا سمعنا حاجة والمدرسة كلمتنا قالتنا they did this at school whatever وإحنا straight reaction. Okay? And reactions, they're not good because they have all this stuff. They're impulsive. There's no control. They're anger a lot of the time. So psychologically, it's known as a human being, whatever's inside of us will likely come out. Okay? If we're angry and we have to have a conversation or an interaction, the anger will probably come out. If we're frustrated, it will come out. If we're not in the mood, we're going to show that we're not in the mood somehow. And if we're happy, the conversation will be nice. If we're joyful, if we're calm, if we're relaxed, if we're whatever, that's likely human nature. But if we're frustrated and angry and we're not in control, okay? Criticism. We're going to criticize our kids. We're going to judge them. If they've done something bad, the way we interact with them, if we react, they're going to feel judged personally. They've done something wrong. They're not good. They're naughty. They're badly behaved. All of these are judgments on the person, not on their behavior, on them. Okay? Or that's how the kids interpret it. Okay? Accusations. Ridiculous punishments. When we react, when ما فيش تفكير, we punish them with حاجات that we're not going to do. I'm taking your phone for a month. You're not taking the phone for a month. Or you're not going, you're not going out for the weekend. They're probably going to go out for the weekend. لما احنا نهدى and calm down and we come back to reality. Okay? So reactions, there's no thinking. Okay? Giving in. Even sometimes when we react, we're so frustrated, we don't have any capacity. خلاص, ماشي. Go away. Yes, no problem. Go. We give them what we want just to avoid the problem. Okay? It's a reaction. And later we think we shouldn't have done that. But Sasha, we just reacted. This is what we do. So we try and stay away from reactions. There's short-term temptations. Yani they sometimes fix the problem in the short term, but they cause a lot of damage in the long term. A prime example is معايا صغيرة. If they're being naughty or whatever, إذا إحنا نشخط فيهم, it will work, probably. إذا إحنا زعقنا فيهم, هيبطلوا. They'll get scared, they'll get shocked, they'll whatever, and they'll stop. So we've solved that problem in that moment. Yes, we wanted them to stop, شخطنا فيهم, and they stopped. But long term, of teaching them and building a relationship with them, it's very damaging. Reactions are damaging in the long term, okay? And they may seem like they're working in the short term, but we're not here for the short term, we're here for the long term. What we want to do is respond. Is respond and not react. And responding is the exact opposite of all the reactions. But a response is intentional. We're thought out. We're intentional. We know what we're doing. Okay? We've thought about it. We're doing this, responding to this with a long-term goal. The long-term goal is in نعلم عيالنا. As in, they're role models for our kids. We want them to learn. We want them to understand ليه إحنا قلنا لأ, or ليه this is dangerous, or what the outcome's going to be. We're teaching them something. We're achieving a long-term goal. Okay? There's a teaching element. It focuses on the child individually. فالطريقة اللي أنا بتعامل with one kid may be different to my other child because they're very different. So that's purposeful. أنا عارف العيل ده and what works with him, وأنا عارف my other child وإيه اللي بيشتغل معي. Okay? So again, it's intentional. It considers reasons for the misbehavior and an understanding on the parent's part. Anything we see from our children, and I'll explain a bit more later, any behavior that they do, there's a reason. Something's happening. They don't just misbehave because they're bored. زهقانين and عايزين يعملوا مشاكل and they're just giving us a hard time. If they're misbehaving badly, if they're upset, if they're yelling, screaming, being rebellious, something's happening in their behavior, something's happening emotionally for them. Oh, there's a reason. فاحنا, if we're responding, we're showing that we're trying to understand what's happening. ونفهم ليه هم بيعملوا اللي بيعملوه. Why they're behaving this way. But a reaction, there's none of that. Okay? So we always want to try to respond to our kids, not react to our kids. And كمان, as we know, and scientifically and psychologically, and it's proven, عيال بيتعلموا, they learn from what they feel and what they experience more than what they hear. كمان, for us parenting, إحنا, a lot of us, worldwide, I think humanity, we parent a lot by talking to the kids. عايزين نعلمهم with what we say. اعمل كذا, ما تعملش كذا, ده صح, ده غلط, blah, blah, blah. We talk a lot. Kids learn from what they experience and what they feel and their emotion. فيتعلموا مننا أكتر لما بيشوفونا, and they see how we act, how we talk, how we problem solve, how we deal with a problem, with an issue. هيتعلموا أكتر من إن إحنا بس نقول لهم بالكلام. ده صح, ده غلط, اعملوا كذا, ما تعملوش كذا. Okay? فاحنا, then the responsibility on us ان احنا role model, نوريهم through our behavior ازاي نرespond, ازاي نديل with المشكلة, ازاي problem solve. إذا احنا we're angry, how to control ourselves. If we're not happy, ان احنا control ourselves, so then we can have a proper conversation. or we can solve a problem, or we can interact, or whatever it is. Okay, so role modeling is very, very important.
أحب لو الخدام يساعدوني مثلا أيمن مريم سيلفيا يطلعوا يعني يترجموا الأجزاء اللي جاية يركزوا معانا. قال من الاستراتيجيز مهمة قوي للسيف زون إن هو الريسبوندينج نوت رياكتنج. الريسبوندينج يعني بتتجاوب مع الموقف، الرياكتنج بتخد ده رد فعل. رد الفعل ده ممكن يكون أنت خفت عليه أو زعلان منه أو كده، فرد فعلك عنيف. يكون في تهزيء، يكون في حكم جادجمنت، يكون في ايه تاني، قرارات مش هتاخد التليفون قد كده، مش هتخرج قد كده، قرارات سريعه. كله رد فعل بيبقى مش مدروس ومش مفكرين فيه. الريسبوندنج بقى انك بتفكر، انك بتحل مشكله معاه، انك بتعمل بلان لقدام، ليك هدف لقدام، ان يكون ده جزء من التربيه. ليه؟ لان الاطفال بيتعلموا مش بالكلام، بيتعلموا من اللي بيختبروه، من مشاعر. اتحط في موقف واختبر مشاعر وعبر عنها صح او غلط ونعلمه منها، ده بيتعلم اكتر من ان هو نقعد نتكلم وندي اوامر او نتكلم فقط. اللي بيتكلم فقط ده اكنه اكنه في الجيش، شخص بينفذ قرارات مش هينفذه. انما لما نطلع من المشكله بكونكلوجن، بنصائح، بافكار، بمحاوله اخرى، بفرصه اخرى، دي طريقه التربيه. المره الجايه ايمن.
And again, كل ده biblical من الإنجيل. And again, another verse summarizes all of this and gives us very good practical instruction ازاي احنا deal with our kids and deal with each other. And the verse, therefore, as the elect of God, احنا, the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on a lot of things here. Put on tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, long-suffering, bearing with one another, forgiving one another. Again, if we look at this verse and we apply it to our parenting, ma'ayalna, if we're merciful with them when they make mistakes, big mistakes, if we're kind, even in our disciplining, even in getting them in trouble, even in trying to correct their bad behavior, نعملها بطريقة that's kind and that's loving. Humility is a big one. And again, sorry, I don't think we're great at it culturally. How many of us بنتأسف to our children? How many of us go regularly? Because I can guarantee all of us, our parenting is not great daily. Daily. Every day I go to bed and I think of my parenting and it's disaster. And I promise myself I'm going to do better tomorrow. I'm going to do better tomorrow. There's not one day I've gone to bed and I've looked at the day when I did a very good job. I was fantastic today. I did nothing wrong. My parenting was ace. It's never happened. But then I ask myself, how many times in the day have I apologized to my children? Never. Very rarely do I say sorry to my kids before they go to bed for all the balawi that I did in my parenting for the day. Very rarely. But do I show humility and meekness in my parenting towards my kids? No. Long-suffering, nistahmil. They're children. They're teenagers. Long-suffering. Bearing with one another, forgiving one another. But again, if we can apply this stuff to our parenting and to our relationship with our spouses, we'll do much, much better. Not perfect, but much, much better.
كتر خيرك انك بتغطي برضو المحاضرة ايه روحيا. اتفضل يا ايمن.
الآيتين من كولوسي 3 12 و13. الآيتين هم: فالبسوا كمختاري الله القديسين المحبوبين أحشاء رأفات ولطفا وتواضعا ووداعة وطول أناة. فكيرو كان بيشرح طبعا ان احنا we have to have ان احنا يبقى عندنا الرأفات واللطف مع اولادنا، تواضع، وداعة، طول أناة. والآية اللي بعديها: محتملين بعضكم بعضا ومسامحين بعضكم بعضا. إن كان لأحد على أحد شكوى كما غفر لكم المسيح هكذا أنتم أيضا. هو الآيتين بالعربي شارحين نفسهم جدا، إن لو إحنا آباء بنتبع الآيتين دول ففي حاجات كتير هتصلح.
ومنها الاعتذار، نعتذر عن أخطائنا. وقال حاجة مهمة قوي، إن كل ليلة بيفكر هو عمل إيه رونج في تربية أولاده، فيلاقي في كل يوم أكيد بيكتشف إن في حاجة رونج عملها ومش بنعتذر عنها. فلو فكرنا إحنا عملنا إيه مع أولادنا فعلا، وده تدريب حلو بالليل، ولقينا فيه أخطاء، يمكن تاني يوم نصلحه، البعض بالاعتذار، البعض بطريقة أخرى، المهم نصلحه.
I touched on this before. I won't spend a lot of time on it. بس مهم قوي إن إحنا, like we said, understand أو separate the feelings وال emotions بتوع عيالنا and the behaviors. A lot of the time إحنا as parents we just focus on behavior, the negative behavior. Whatever the behavior is, إحنا عايزين نصلح the behavior, عايزين نبطل the behavior. So we focus all our energy on the behavior and we don't give time نحاول يعني figure out نعرف إيه emotion behind the behavior. My suggestion is at the very least 50-50. If we're going to spend time fixing the behavior, it's important. وعايزين نبطل that behavior, of course. بس على الأقل we spend some time understanding, نفهم طب هم بيعملوا كده ليه? They're behaving this way, why? ونحاول fix that first. Anyone will tell you, and we can all agree, if there's a problem, if you fix the source of the problem, you'll fix the problem. For the source of the problem is how they're feeling and their emotion. And it's very important نحن نفهم why they're doing this and spend time figuring this out and fixing this. Okay? It will make fixing the behavior a lot easier, a lot more successful. The next thing is boundaries, which is what we're getting to, and how we set boundaries, and the difference between saying no and saying okay, but with a boundary. Again, I think for a lot of parents, straight away our go-to, لا, no, عشان, because I said so. Naturally, we're busy, we don't have time, we don't have capacity. No, it's a lot easier لينا إن إحنا نقول لا. And a lot of the time, sometimes, if we actually stop and put aside our schedule, our program, our brain cells that are finished because of work, our tiredness, if we put all that aside and we actually focus on what they're asking for, sometimes it's not that bad. Or it's not that unrealistic. Or it doesn't need to be no. It could be yes with some boundaries or some negotiation. But our default, our go-to straight away, because it's easier for us, no. So we have to think about this rather than saying no. نفكر is, can we figure out how we can negotiate and compromise and set boundaries and نشتغل معهم, to work with them to sometimes give them what they want with boundaries and with rules. And you all know what boundaries are. So they're rules, guidelines that we set up to determine how we are treated in relationships. They clearly define what we will and won't put up with from others. So what a boundary is, it's clarity. It's clear. We know what we're going to do, what we're not going to do. What's okay, what's not okay. What we'll allow, what we absolutely won't allow. And the boundaries gives us that framework to work inside that boundary. Okay, so we're not saying no, we're saying okay, but there's rules. And it keeps order, and it keeps structure, and it keeps safety and protection and so many wonderful things when we put boundaries. And it helps the relationship with the kids, because we're not just saying no anymore. And they're winning some gains. They're asking for stuff, and mama, baba, meshi, okay, or let's talk about it, or let's figuring out. For Homa, they're feeling, and we're not just saying no. No, we're working with them, and they respect us, and we have a better relationship with them when they feel that. Menena. Okay. So why we need them? There's many reasons why we need them, and the first one is it prepares the kids for the real world. لما هم يسيبونا ويتجوزوا أو يشتغلوا or they go study or they leave home. The real world has a lot of boundaries and a lot of rules. وإذا هم مش متعودين on these boundaries and rules في البيت, they're going to get a very big shock when they go outside. It's our job to give them the real world inside our house as well. Okay? Helps them learn rules and obey them, teaches them about consequences. If they do something wrong and they don't experience consequence, لما يعملوا حاجة غلط برا and they get in trouble with the law or they get in trouble from their boss at work or whatever, it's going to be a shock. They're not used to boundaries. They're not used to rules. But we don't want a life of freedom, yep, no problem, and we're cool parents. That's not what we want. We need boundaries. Helps them show respect, consideration, and selflessness. It helps them function in a world with other people, with colleagues, with bosses, with next door neighbors, with friends, with parents, with priests, with Sunday school servants, with community, whatever. Okay? So boundaries, we like boundaries.
الجزء اللي غطيناه في الأول، ثانية واحدة هقوله حالا. أول حاجة إن احنا نفصل المشاعر عن السلوك بتاعهم، بحيث إن احنا نصلح أصل المشكلة ونفهم هم ليه بيعملوا كده. بمعنى إن احنا بنفهم إيه هو المصدر أو السورس للمشكلة، وده اللي هيخلينا نفهم إيه سبب السلوك اللي احنا شايفينه قدامنا أو ليه السلوك اللي ظاهر ده موجود كده. هنفهم الجزء المستخبي والمشاعر اللي ورا التصرفات دي. النقطة التانية إن احنا سهل بالنسبة لنا إن احنا نقول كلمة لأ نتيجة إن احنا مضغوطين أو عندنا أي ظروف أو ما عندناش القدرة للنيجوشيشن مع الولاد أو إن احنا نتفاوض، بنقول كلمة لأ وخلاص وهي كده، وده الأمر الواقع. لكن المفروض اللي احنا نعمله إن احنا نكون بنحط حدود، وبالمناقشة بنوصل للقواعد الصح دي، في حين بالنسبة يعني لكلمة لأ السهلة اللي بتطلع دي هي مش أصح حاجة، لأن احنا ممكن تكون الولاد بيطلبوه حاجة عادية ما فيهاش مشكلة. لو ركزنا على الهدف من كلمة اللأ بتاعتنا هنقدر نحدد احنا ليه بنقولها. هل احنا بنقولها لأ وخلاص زهق أو تعب أو whatever أي حاجة، ولا احنا بنقول لأ علشان هي فعلا لأ، أو ان احنا بنحط الرولز أو الباوندريز أو الحدود اللي الولاد ان هم المفروض يشتغلوا عليها. يعني اللأ علشان المنظومة اللي احنا بنحطها بنقول له اوكي حاضر هي دي الحدود بس بتاعتك، فاحنا مش بنقول لأ وخلاص. حتى لو قلنا لأ بنقول له اوكي هتعمل كذا بس خلي بالك دي حدودك. ليه الحدود؟ عشان بنجهزهم للدنيا بره، بنساعدهم يفهموا ويتعلموا الحدود ويلتزموا بيها، بنعرفهم الكونسيكونسز بتاعت تصرفاتهم او النتائج عن التصرفات بتاعتهم، بنساعدهم ان هم يفهموا الحياة حواليهم. I hope ان انا اكون غطيتها كويس.
What if they're 17 years old? They still need boundaries, don't they?
I'll get to that. I'll answer that.
I think sometimes we have preconceived ideas, like we learnt our ways from our parents, from our elders, from people in our lives, and our generation might be not the same generation which is now, and we have preconceived ideas of what our children should be like, yet the time that they live in is different, and we sometimes need to listen to them more to understand what they're going through, because it's not simply my child's got an issue at school, I understand. It might be something that because of the way that they are learning now and the peer pressure that they're in, I might not understand how to deal with it. I need to give them time to give me as much as I need to learn from the situation, ongoing, continuous improvement.
100%. And that's something إن إحنا لازم we have to acknowledge the way we were parented is very different to the way we're parenting now. And it's not a matter of دلوقتي أصعب أو قبل كده كان أصعب. It doesn't matter. It's just different. It's different. Everyone can have their opinion. If this society is harder and our kids have more struggles now than what we did or our parents did, who knows? But I think we can all agree it's very different. And one example, يعني for me growing up, I'm sure for a lot of you, knowledge and information back then wasn't available. فإذا ماما بابا قالوا حاجة or somebody said something or they told us something, we take that information because we don't know any different. These days, that's not the case. They have so much knowledge and so much information and access where they'll question everything. If the reason we give them or we don't give them a reason at all, that's not acceptable to them, مش هينفع. It's not going to work. My parents, لا ليه عشان because I said so. خلاص ما فيش كلام كتير. That's it. What I've said is finished. There's no discussion. طب ليه? It doesn't matter ليه. ما فيش ليه. And whatever. That's هعمل إيه. That was it. These days, that's not the case. They have a voice. They can speak up. They can go talk to someone else. We don't have the same control of our kids that our parents had of us because they have resources, a lot more resources that work in their favor for them, that work against us. That's the reality. فإحنا لازم accept, we have to accept the world we live in and that our kids are growing up in is very different. If we want to parent them in a way that works, we have to, 100% Tony, we have to understand the world they live in. We try to understand the world we live in. We try to get information. We try to educate ourselves so we can parent them the best way.
I just have one question. When you negotiate and boundaries, sometimes the parent's stubborn and sometimes the child's stubborn. How do you break that stubbornness?
That's a great question. I think it comes back to a point we made earlier. إحنا as parents, we have to pick our battles. إحنا مش هنكسب every single time. It's not going to happen. فإحنا to have the wisdom, يعني as much as we can, to figure out which battles we're going to lose and we're going to يعني allow and which ones we're not. And I think in order for us to do that, when it comes down to safety, if something's unsafe, حاجة خطر, حاجة is dangerous, something is we can't accept, we're Christians, there's no negotiation, it's not grey, it's black and white, absolutely not, then these are the battles and nehna we have and we don't let go of and we don't compromise and we don't negotiate. If my kid wants to go to a party and come home at 1 o'clock in the morning and there's going to be drugs and alcohol there, no, that's a battle I'm going to have. There's no negotiation. There's no top, go to the party and just use a little bit of drugs and come home at 11 o'clock. Absolutely not. And there's other ones that if we're reasonable and if we're calm and if we're wise and if we're logical, we can negotiate. We can relax. We can extend the boundary a little bit so we can work with our children because it's not dangerous. It's not a matter of safety. It's not a matter of right and wrong. Maybe we're uncomfortable. Maybe we're not used to this. Maybe it's new and different, but we can work within it. They're the ones that we should negotiate. فإحنا we have to be aware of our stubbornness just as much as our kids' stubbornness.
أترجم. هو كيرو كان بيقول كانت هيلين كانت بتسأله إزاي إحنا نتعامل مع الأطفال لما يكونوا stubborn وكده أو ولادنا يعني مش أطفال anymore وإحنا كمان فهو بيقول إن إحنا لازم نacknowledge إن إحنا كمان stubborn يعني إن إحنا كمان بنقفل دماغنا أحيانا زي ما هما كمان بيقفلوا مش لازم إن إحنا نفوز بكل جولة نبقى عندنا استعداد إن إحنا كمان إن إحنا نتفاهم معاهم إن إحنا نقول لهم إحنا آسفين كلمة قالها حلوة قوي كيرو إن إحنا لازم نتعلم نقول لأولادنا إحنا آسفين بس في حاجة كيرو I wanna ask you something انا جا في دماغي حاجه كنت بفكر فيها من فتره، بقول اهالينا ربونا زي ما اهاليهم ربوهم. اكزاكتلي. هم ما لا راحوا كورسات ولا راحوا يتعلموا اي حاجه ولا قروا كتب ولا اي حاجه. امي ربتني زي ما امها ربتها، بس احنا جيل مختلف. احنا بنيجي نحضر، بنتعلم، بنacknowledge our trauma، يعني احنا يعني بنفتكر الحاجات الوحشه اللي اهالينا عملوها فينا. في ناس كتير متأثرة وفي ناس بتروح تتعالج وفي ناس مش عارف ايه، بس احنا يعني انا بقول دي حاجة ميزة فينا يمكن ربنا عملها عشان خاطر عارف ان ولادنا دول مختلفين جدا، جايين بتحديات مختلفة جدا، فاحنا بنتعلم عشانهم. ده ان احنا كلنا موجودين هنا النهاردة عشان نتعلم نتعامل معاهم ازاي. فيمكن ده ترتيب ربنا ان احنا كلنا بنتعلم وبنعمل حاجه. فلما احنا نحضر حاجه زي كده احنا نقول نفسنا جود جوب، برافو عليكم ان انتوا بتفكروا ان انتوا تروحوا الميل التاني، ومش بس ان انتوا قافلين دماغكم على حاجه، بالعكس.
So 2 points the fathers asked me to touch on. The first one is a confidence بتاعنا as parents, which is really, really important. And I'll tell you, and I'm sure you all know, because كلكم عندكم عيال, and you know, if our children sniff lack of confidence مننا, they'll take advantage of that and they'll try to use that to get whatever they want. Okay? Kids are very creative, they're very clever. We don't give them enough credit when it comes to stuff like this. But for us to have confidence in our parenting and to have consistency in our parenting, if we make a decision, it's a battle that we're not gonna have, or we're gonna be firm on it. Now be confident and back ourselves with our decision. We're making the right decision. We love our kids. That's what's best for our children, and we stand our ground. A good way to do that is with the husband and wife together, and that's one of my points here, to work together. If you're lacking confidence and you need some support, you have somebody else that can back you with your decision. If for whatever reason you don't have that support, there's other supports in the community. The other week, my son, he's 11, he's here actually outside. I hope he can't hear me. He came to me and he said, Dad, in the school holidays, he goes to the Coptic school here at St. Mary's, St. Minas, big holidays, 8 weeks. But he goes, Dad, in the holidays, I want to get highlights in my hair. He wants to color his hair, hot lawn in top of his hair, blonde, like light color. You're not getting highlights. Why? And one of my friends is getting them, and it's okay, and it's just for the holidays, and what's the problem? And it's like, you're not getting highlights. And he wouldn't let it go. When I started to think, all right, what's the problem? The highlights, all right, what's the problem? He's not shaving his head, he's not getting earrings. I wasn't comfortable, I wasn't okay, but I started to lose confidence. He kept going and going and going, and he wouldn't accept it, and I started to feel defeated. So I said to him, fine, let's talk to your confession father, and if he says yes, you can get highlights. But if he says no, don't ask me again. I know very well, and his confession father is going to say no, right? But my confidence was shaken. I questioned myself. So there's support. There's support. I could have got support from my wife. I got support from his confession father. I could have got support from, my brother, his uncle, or someone else. So be confident in your parenting. If you're not, get the support that you need to be consistent and confident in your parenting, okay? As long as you're doing it correctly, as long as you're making the best decision with the best intentions for your kids, then don't lose confidence in your parenting, okay? As long as you're doing it the best way you can, without anger, without judgment, without reactions, without all of these things. The other thing Abuna touched on is how the practical ways to put your foot down when something's dangerous, when something's not okay, when something's black and white, and you're not going to compromise and you're not going to negotiate. Again, we have to ensure that we're doing it the best way we can. Don't get angry. Don't get frustrated. Don't lose control. Don't lose your peace. Give reasons, and again, something we can do better. Explain to them why you're making this decision or you're putting in this boundary. Show them that you're not just saying no for no. مش بس بنقول لا عشان we're saying no for a reason, and show them that you've given them things before. يعني أنت جيت قبل كده وسألتني ممكن كذا and I said ماشي, أو ممكن كذا I said ماشي, أو ممكن كذا الأول قلت لا, but we negotiated and I gave you that. Prove to them, and you're not just saying no and you're not trying to make their life difficult, but some things are not negotiable, and explain the reasons why. One thing again with my son, and he seems to be responding to it quite well, and it's one line and I've been using it more and more. Another example, one of his friends has an electric bike. So he wants an electric bike, he's 11. And these things are very dangerous, right? They're very dangerous. I don't like them. And the bike that his friend has goes to 60 kilometers an hour. And I was trying to explain to him, Habibi, that's a car. Like the streets, yani school zones are 40, 60 is a car. You're not getting a bike. And of course, my son's very stubborn. He wants. So, and I wasn't planning on it, but I ended up saying to him, I love you too much to get you an electric bike. I'm not getting it because I don't love you, or because I'm trying to make your life difficult, or because I'm trying to naked adik. I actually like you too much, and I like hanging out with you, and I like going fishing with you, and I like playing soccer with you, and that's the reason why I'm not getting you a bike. And miraculously, that landed with him. Thank God. That's not something I planned. I had no idea what I was saying, but thank God he understood that. When I said to him, we go fishing a lot, I've got a boat. I said to him, something happens to you and we can't go fishing and camping, which we like to do. There's no way I'm going to allow that. If I enjoy your company too much and I love you too much to let you get an electric bike, thank you very much. So figure out ways, be creative, trial and error. جربوا حاجات, some will work, some won't. But the non-negotiables, you hold your ground. If something's dangerous, if something unsafe, if something's unchristian, these are not things we'll negotiate with. It's our delivery that's important. Okay?
Kero, I think a lot of times you get a lot of parents that clash. And so, of course, the Egyptian way and, the traditions and all that, I think it's most important that they've got to see eye to eye, even though they do clash. And even though their mindset is in a different kind of, way that they want to teach their kids. So I think that's just one of the things. And you'll have some kids that'll come to you and say, well, his parents or her parents are better, they treat them better and things like that. But I think emotionally and the way that you deal with them at home will create that kind of trust factor that, hey, your parenting is going to be, right. So don't worry about anybody else 100%. Around you. So I think the clashing is very important.
100%. So that's my second point here. So I'll take you through this quickly. So how do we set these? Some practical ways to do it. The first thing, it's very self-explanatory and it's very simple and we all know it, but I think all of us can do a much better job at it again. And it's very simple. We need to pray. All of this that we're talking about, all of this information, all of the studies about behavior management and strategies and techniques, it's fantastic. It's great. It means nothing without praying. And again, I'll ask us individually and I'll ask myself, how many of us actually pray, one, for our children, and two, for our parenting? How many of us pray on the way home عشان هنروح and هنبتدي the parents and نبتدي and put down rules and figure why they want gaming and they want to go on screen and they want to watch movies and 5 p.m., 6 p.m. I'm about to start my day parenting. How many of us pray on the way home for our parenting when we go inside the house?
معلش بس هترجم الحتتين اللي انت قلتهم حاجتين مهمين. هو كيرو كان بيتكلم على حاجة مهمة قوي، بيقولوا لو الولاد شموا ان احنا مش confidence، مش متأكدين او مش واثقين في نفسنا، على طول هم هيحاولوا يستغلوا الموضوع ده. من علامات ان احنا مش واثقين في نفسنا ان الاب والام ما يكونوش متفقين على حاجة. وكمان كيرو قال حاجة حلوة قوي وهي فكرة جميلة جدا، ان احنا لما نكون مش متأكدين نسأل بره. يعني ايه؟ يعني هو بيحكي بيقول ان هو ابنه طلب منه ان هو يصبغ شعره، هو يعني ما كانش هو متاكد قوي، هو لا بس مش متاكد اذا كان ده فعلا حاجه صح ولا غلط، فراح قال له طب اسال ابونا اب اعترافك شوف هيقول ايه. فالحل ان احنا احيانا لما اولادنا يطلبوا مننا حاجه احنا مش متاكدين، نحاول ان احنا نستفيد من الريسورسز اللي حوالينا، الكنيسه، ابونا، اصحابنا، الناس اللي احنا بنثق فيهم طبعا. حاجه تانية قال ان احنا في حاجات لازم تبقى خلاص، حاجات نبقى مصممين عليها، ما ينفعش يعني ما ينفعش. حاجات اللي هي طبعا الحاجات الغير مسيحيه، والحاجات اللي هي مش بتمجد ربنا، والحاجات اللي هي كمان ممكن تكون خطر عليهم. كل الحاجات دي مهمه ان احنا نصمم عليها، وما يكونش فيه اي نوع من انواع اللي يعني ينفع يا مش هينفع. يعني مثلا هو اخذ مثال ان ابنه كان بيطلب منه ان هو يجيب له بايك سرعتها 60 كيلو، قال له يا حبيبي دي عربيه، انت طفل ما ينفعش انت تبقى عندك دي. وبس كمان لما قال له ليه ما ينفعش، قال له علشان انا خايف عليك. مش لازم ان احنا بس نقول لا احنا مش عايزين، انت ما ينفعش انت تاخد كذا، او انت ما ينفعش انك تعملي كذا، بس لازم نديهم سبب مقنع. وكمان هو بدأ وقال ازاي احنا بقى نحط القواعد والرولز دي والباوندريز دي. اول حاجه قال اهم حاجه ان احنا نصلي، وكان بيسأل سؤال مهم قوي، كم واحد فينا بيصلي للاسلوب بتاعه كأب او ام، وكم مره احنا بنصلي لاولادنا ان هم ربنا يكون معاهم ويحافظ عليهم.
الصلاة is important عشان الحاجات اللي احنا محتاجينها to parent احنا عن نفسنا ما عندناش. We don't have patience. كhuman beings we don't have patience. We don't have wisdom. What's wisdom in Arabic? حكمة. ما عندناش حكمة. We don't. We struggle with it. We don't have forgiveness, unlimited forgiveness. We don't have يعني a lot of the things اللي احنا محتاجينها to parent احنا ما عندناش. فلازم نصلي ولازم نجيب الحاجات دي من ربنا عشان نقدر نقدمها لعيالنا in our parenting. Because if we try to do it ourselves, we don't have it. We're human, we don't have it. So prayer is very important. On your point, so the second one is, احنا mom and dad, we have to be on the same page. Please, please, please don't disagree and don't argue and don't be on different pages in front of the kids. In front of the kids. In reality, ان احنا ممكن نبقى different. انا مخي بيقول لي حاجه، ان مراتي مخها بتقول لها حاجه تانية. No problem. We're not the same person. No problem. But not in front of the kids. Even if my wife is making a decision, or she's parenting, or she's خدت قرار, or she's whatever, I don't agree with it. يعني my son wants something and مراتي بتقول لا عشان كذا كذا، وانا اقول حاجه تافهه، fine, give it to him, no problem, it's not a big deal. This is a battle, I'll let go. Even if that's the case, in front of the child, I support my wife, I back my wife, I say to him, Mum said no, and she told you why, she gave you a reason, that's it. And afterwards, I can talk to my wife. And we can discuss it, and we can try to, I can understand her perspective, هي تفهم why I don't think it's a big deal, and we can have a conversation, no problem. But as much as we can, to not argue and fight and disagree on our parenting in front of the children, okay, in general. In general, that's the general rule that we go by. Try and present as a united front. Two are better than one. Jesus sent out 2 by 2. The disciples, everything was 2 by 2. 2 is better than 1. So we be united in front of the children, and we try to get on the same page, yani behind closed doors, no problem. Be reasonable, like we said, pick your battles. This is very, very important. And again, a very powerful strategy. When we make boundaries, we create rules, whatever, please, as much as you can, include the children in that conversation. It's very different ان احنا كparents نروح نقول لهم كذا 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 كذا. This is how it is. You can do this. You can't do this. This is the rule. This is the boundary. Thank you very much. And we go off. Okay? As they're older, teenagers, adolescents, involve them in the process. خليهم يعني to be a part of the decision making. نسمع منهم why they think that's okay. Why they want this boundary. Why they want to come home at midnight instead of 10 p.m. Understand from them, and we agree and use them, because if we have their buy-in إذا هم مشتركين in this discussion and in this decision, when it comes time to implement it, they'll agree. because they came up with it. Oh, they contributed to it. Oh, they agreed to it. It's not news, it's not surprise. But إذا إحنا just making the rules and just giving them everything and they don't agree and they're not on board, it's harder for us إن إحنا implement this stuff. But as much as you can, work with your children to come up with the house rules, to come up with the agreements, to come up with the boundaries مع بعض, collectively. Okay?
Yeah, you just said like for the consequence, how they misbehave for the behavior, you need to know as a parent. Sometimes, like, we have our assumption, like, after we said, you can't do this. For example, no, this is not appropriate clothes. I don't want you to buy this. Or it could be like in my case, okay, I'm upstairs, my bedroom. The children bedrooms upstairs. So I say, you're not allowed to take your phone upstairs. That's the rule in the house. They're not allowed to take the phone upstairs. Like recently, they are 15. They try to push the boundary. So sometimes I just believe, like, no, that's, maybe I'm wrong. They misbehave, just they get upset. So how do I deal with this? Like, sometimes I'm not sure, like, no, they are 15. Just, I say I have to wait until they're 17 or something. I don't feel comfortable. They take their phone upstairs in the bedroom. So sometimes, you don't know what you're doing right or wrong.
Yeah.
Can you help with this? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the best way to implement consequences, there's a few things. The first thing, like I just said, create the rules and the consequences together. If the rule is you can't take your mobile phone upstairs, and we're not negotiating on that. It's very dangerous. We don't know what they're doing. They can stay up till 2 a.m. on their phones if it's in their bedroom. We're not having it. That's black and white. Absolutely not. We have that discussion. We give the reasons why, and we agree all together that the rules are 10 p.m., they're in the charger downstairs. That's the rules of the house, okay? And we all agree to that. We also agree on the consequences. If you don't agree to the rules, then what's the punishment going to be? And let them contribute to that. They may lose their phone for the whole next day. They may lose their phone for a weekend. You may limit the time that they're able to access the internet on the phone because you've got parental controls. They get an hour a day. They're only going to get 20 minutes a day. Whatever it is. Fahna, we agree with the kids on the consequences as well. Kids, adolescents, teenagers, they don't like surprises. They don't like surprises. They like to know. They like to be told, they like to know in advance, and it's not a shock to them, and mahna nigin consequence them. For these are all things that we can do that make consequencing, giving a punishment, a lot easier and a lot simpler. And the most important part, if the consequence is agreed on, if it's known, there's no surprises, it's reasonable. That's very important. It has to be reasonable. The most important part, if all of that is in place and you follow through, because the worst thing is you do all this work and then you get soft at the end. And the kids don't take you seriously and they know they can walk all over us as parents, or they know next time they break the rule, Malish, I'm going to say sorry and she's going to feel bad and then she's going to let me have it, and we just lose all credibility. So as long as all this stuff's in place when we're creating stuff, and then if we need to consequence, we consequence and we stay firm, my opinion, this is the best way to do things. But avoid surprises. Don't make surprises for the kids. Don't give them a consequence they didn't know about, they weren't warned about, they had no idea about.
So, even if they are not convinced with this discussion, like, you have the discussion, you have told them all the reasons, and at the end, no, never mind, you don't like it. So, in this case, you go to this level of boundaries, regardless they like it.
If it's a non-negotiable, then yes. If it's a safety concern, yani for me, that's non-negotiable. There is no way I'm going to let my children have a device upstairs in their room with a door closed connected to the internet. Inshallah, they say they're going to leave the house. There's no way I'm going to negotiate on that. But for me, they're not going to agree. They're not going to like it. That's the rule. I communicate it the best way I can. I communicate it as respectfully as I can. I give them all the reasons why. I negotiate with them. Meshi, my rule is 10 p.m. Friday nights and Saturday nights, we can do it till 11 p.m. No problem. So I'll work with them a little bit, but it's non-negotiable. And like I said, a matter of safety, a matter of protection, a matter of something that's sinful, we don't negotiate, and we do our best to implement that boundary or that rule.
How to set the boundaries، يعني ازاي نحط الحدود ما بيننا وبين الأولاد. أول حاجة احنا لازم نصلي كويس عشان ربنا يعيننا في الوقت دوت، لأن طبعا التعامل مع التينيجرز بيبقى ساعات صعب جدا، فلازم ربنا يكون معانا في كل مرحلة ويقودنا علشان خاطر يسهل علينا المأمورية. تاني حاجة لازم يكون الأب والآباء والأمهات يكونوا متفقين مع بعض على الأقل قدام الأولاد. يعني لو الأم قالت حاجة الأب يعني يسبورت هير، الأب قال حاجة الأم تسبورت، ما يختلفوش قدام الأولاد، إلا إذا كان الأب والأم يختلفوا قدام الأولاد هتاخد الفرصة تبدأ تعمل يعني إيه الحاجات اللي هم عايزينها. تاني حاجة لازم نكون وإحنا بنعمل الحدود ديت نكون يعني عقلانيين، وتكون حاجة يعني reasonable، ما تكونش حاجة شديدة قوي أو ما تكونش حاجة كبيرة قوي، عشان بعد كده ما نجيش ما نعملهاش فالأولاد ياخدوا ديت against us، ويبقى كل شوية يقول بابا بيقول كده بس مش هيعمل كده، ماما بتقول كده بس مش هتعمل كده. فلازم تبقى حاجة معقولة عشان نقدر ننفذها عشان الأولاد يعرفوا. وبعدين الحاجة الرابعة إن إحنا لازم نشرك الأولاد نفسهم في الموضوع دوت. يعني إيه أنت هتعمل كده في اتفاق، لو ما عملتش كده العقاب بتاعك هنعمل إيه؟ مثلا إحنا بدل ما نستعمل إنترنت مثلا ساعة هتبقى نص ساعة أو تلت ساعة، بدل مثلا ما أروح مثلا مكان هو عاوز يروحه أو يحبه لا مش هيروحوا. فالحاجات دي تبقى معروفة والأولاد هم نفسهم اللي بيحطوها، ويبقوا عارفين لو عمل غلط دوت أو تعدى الحدود بتاعته هيحصل المشكلة ديت وهيبقى حاجة تتشال منه. وبعدين لازم تبقى الحاجات دي معروفة ومفهومة ومدروسة وتبقى الأولاد عارفينها، لأن الأولاد ما بيحبوش المفاجآت. سؤال.
The only problem we have with the strategy that once we open our mouths, the emotion in them gets really high and escalated, and they just shut down. They want to hear, they don't want to talk, they don't want to discuss, and everything gets ruined. What can we do?
Yeah. So the emotions of an adolescent and teenager is very hard. I think picking times of when to have the conversation is important. So if you can pick times where they're not emotional or they're in a better mood or you want to speak about something that you couldn't before, is probably a good strategy. Another good strategy is try to have some of these conversations in public. So if you want to discuss a consequence or you want to make a rule or you want to talk to them about them breaking a rule or whatever, and they're emotional and things don't usually go to plan, take them for a coffee or take them for a walk or go to Macca's and spend time with them and have a difficult conversation with them there. They'll be much more in control because they're in public. So strategies like that may not work for everyone, but do the best you can. That last point here, number 7, is important. Do your best before God, parent in as much of a godly way as possible, and let go of the outcome. It's very important for us as parents, and نحن accept we are not in control of the outcome. It is not guaranteed. As احنا عملنا كل الحاجات دي, and we stuck to those Bible verses, and we did everything perfectly, and our kids are going to respond well, and they're not going to be emotional, and they're going to say, Hadir, Mama or Baba, and they're going to be angels. That's not the case. فاحنا we have to also be realistic. We are not in control of the outcome. We can do the best we can, and we can do something nearly perfect, and the outcome can still be not great. That's not our problem. We believe in a God who's in control, and I always say to parents, and I say to myself, they're his children before they're our children. يعني احنا بنخاف عليهم, and we're so worried about them, and we put all these rules and whatever because we love them so much. طب how much more does he love them and he care about them? 50 times more than us. And we have to accept this. We do the best we can, and we don't lose our peace. We don't freak out. We don't panic when things aren't going well with our kids or the outcome is not what we wanted. That's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is doing this stuff the best we can, okay? I'm going to just, for time, I'm going to end with this slide here. I think our parenting as well, we have to accept, and this is an important point, we have to change our parenting as our kids grow up, okay? When our kids are younger, when they're little kids, a relationship, العلاقة بيننا وبينهم, it's more of a authoritative and child. I'm the boss, I'm the parent, yes and no, you're doing this, you're not doing this. هم صغيرين مش هيفهموا much anyway, so we don't need to give all these reasons and discussions, and they're little kids, no problem. Authoritative child, parent-child, no problem. As they grow older, that doesn't work. وإحنا لازم, we have to accept this. غصباً عننا, as they grow older, they're going to have independence. Their brain is forming and it's different to our brain. They're going to be out on their own. They're going to have freedoms. When they hit 14, 15, 16, human nature, God's designed it that way. When they hit 16 and 17, they're going to be independent. They're going to go out on their own. They're going to make their own decisions. وإحنا مش هنبقى معاهم 24/7 to make sure they're okay and to control them. And tough. We have to accept it. The way we parent them has to change and has to adapt to suit their age and their developmental stage. And this thing of privacy and freedom, we have to accept. We don't like it because we like to be in control, because we want them to be the best Christians they can be. But we have to accept and we have to let go. We have to give them freedom. The exact same way that God deals with us. We have free will. We have freedom. God tells us everything. He educates us. He gives us priests. He gives us the Bible. He gives us the correct way to live. And he gives us all that foundation. But he gives us freedom. As they grow up, if you try to keep that control, you're going to have problems. 100%. And this is something very difficult for all of us, but it's something we have to accept. And I'll leave you with a quote from St. John Chrysostom. Having children is a matter of nature, so everyone can have children. Human beings, everyone can have children. That's nature. Having children is a matter of nature. Raising them and educating them in the virtues of God, in virtuous life, is a matter of mind and will. It's our mind, it's our intentional parenting, it's our responding, it's our calmness, it's our forgiveness, it's our humility, it's our meekness in our parenting of our mind and our will and our intention that's going to raise virtuous kids. And that's a responsibility on us. And we do the best we can, and we leave the rest to God. We're not in control of the outcome.